Okay, Stephen, it looks like we're live, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. This is the Design and Historic Review Commission for Thursday, October 8th, 2020. I have the time at 10:01 a.m. So I'm calling the meeting to order and establishing that we do have a quorum present. Is that correct? We do have a quorum present?
Yes, sir, we have 6.
Okay, so we'll begin with the consent agenda, and all that is on that for today is consideration and approval of the September 17th, 2020 DHRC meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance via email to get those and review them. I will open the floor now if anybody has any questions or for a motion to approve as written.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, multiple seconds to choose from there. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda. We'll begin with DD 20-16. That's at 136 East Tuig Avenue, a request for downtown district approval for building facade improvements at 136 East Tuig Avenue. That includes the installation of new wood decor and fascia, repainting of an existing door and roof trim, new wood window trim and shutters, new wood ceiling underneath the porch, and 2 new wall metal sconce lights on the building. And with that, we'll hand that over to city staff.
Hey, I'm actually going to be doing this presentation today. I want everyone to be aware, especially if they're watching. Mr. Mazur is actually the applicant on this case, so he will be sitting in as an applicant and not a voting member for this case. So does anyone have any questions? All right, let's get this going then. Okay, the first case we're going to talk about is DD 2016-136 East Tuig Avenue. We're looking at a little under half an acre, so 0.344. Again, it's at 136 East Tuig Avenue, SMD District 3, Harry Thomas in the downtown neighborhood, and the current zoning is Central Business District. So this is a couple of the elevations. The south elevation that faces Tuig Avenue, the east elevation faces Magdalen. So you can see now this building was built in, I believe, 87 for the appraisal district. It's brick, kind of plain looking. It's got, some really nice windows, but they're kind of hidden back there behind the roof and the columns. The north elevation does face an alley, so it's pretty, there's no major windows or anything. And then the west elevation currently faces a parking lot that's owned by Shannon Hospital. So these are a couple of pictures of some surrounding buildings. You can see 138 East Tuig, 118 South Magdalen, 136 East Tuig, which I guess those addresses are a little off. They have wall sconces that are going to be similar to the ones we're proposing in this application. We have 200 South Magdalen. You have seen this several times. It's the old Central Firehouse Bed and Brew. So this application is for a couple of different minor pieces here. They're asking, number one, for the new door and fascia on this. This is on the south side, so this would be facing Tuig Avenue. 2 would be new windows, trim, and shutters adjacent to the windows. 3 would be the new light sconces on the front of the building. There will be a new roof trim color. I don't believe the roof trim is being replaced, just the color. And then under the porch, you will see a new ceiling to the porch. So again, on this east elevation, which would face Magdalen, you're going to have the same windows and shutters. You see a couple of the colors there, natural choice and iron ore. The ceiling will again be on this side, and then the painting of the roof trim. The north elevation, as I stated, would only be visible really from the alley. Maybe as you drive kind of by, you would see it. They're planning on repainting the existing door, again, the roof trim, the ceiling, and then the new windows and shutters. The west elevation, there's actually a retaining wall there. I don't know if that's something that's visible. You can see a small little retaining wall. This sits lower than the adjacent property, but there's still some new windows there and the trim. The trim would be painted and the ceiling underneath. So staff is recommending approval. There's a couple of statements that we've thought were consistent with the design historic or the River Corridor Development Master Plan. The new doors have the rectangular panels, which I think will invite interest to the new front. The new fascia under the south door, including columns, will break up that side. And it's a pretty big, like you said, it's a pretty big side there that's just kind of brick at this point. Excuse me. The windows and roof trim, and the shutters will have colors consistent with the colors in the surrounding area and with the River Corridor Development Master Plan. The windows do have a vertical orientation, which you see in a lot of the historic buildings. So I think that really blends it in with the area, even though it was an 80s building. The ceiling will be a quality material. They plan to finish it with Danish oil, which will help improve the longevity of the ceiling. And I'm sorry, that's a scanned photo, but you can kind of see the wood grain and the paneling or the lines in there. The new wall sconces will accentuate the building columns consistent with the development master plan and will attract people to the front. So you'll know kind of where you're going as you enter. And again, some of the surrounding buildings have very similar wall sconces. So staff is recommending approval of the Downtown District 2016, subject to 2 conditions of approval. The colors, dimensions, materials of all improvements shall be consistent with the renderings approved by this commission. Minor deviations may be approved by the director. The second condition is that the applicant shall obtain permits as required. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions for staff from anybody? Okay, is there any public comment at this time? Nope. And any further discussion amongst anybody?
Right.
If not, I'll open for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, great. So that one.
So
approved.
that it's 5-0 with David abstaining from that vote.
Now we will. Now, is David part of the next one too?
No, sir, I don't believe he has any other conflict of interest. So the next one will,
So he'll come into the body then.
yes, so he'll be a voting member from this point on.
All right. I didn't know if we needed to address that in any way, but okay. So we're going to move on to item B, which I have as DD 20-19, 139 West Concho Avenue, request for downtown district approval of a new gateway structure located in the public right of way at 139 West Concho Avenue. And we'll hand it over to staff. Thank you.
Good morning, Shelley Pascal, planner. This project today is located at 139 West Concho Avenue. This will be a proposed new gateway structure. Its purpose is to welcome residents and visitors to the historic downtown San Angelo. It is located within District 3 Harry Thomas, the Central Business District, and the downtown neighborhood. Here's a couple of photos of the proposed location of the gateway. It will extend over Concho here, and here's kind of a different angle of where it will extend over. This is the proposed gateway. And just to go through a couple of the things, the letters on the sign, they will be black and they will be raised, and it will be powder coated urban bronze. The 2 stones, they will actually be similar to the First Financial sign, which is catty corner to the sign. And the gooseneck lights will illuminate the lettering, and there will be 1 light on each of the exterior columns. Here's a couple of the examples. Here's that First Financial sign, and the stone on the pillars will be similar to this stone. And here's an example of the bronze color. It's more of an antique, historic bronze color. The River Corridor Master Development Plan states that a sense of entry should be incorporated within the development by using signage and landscape. And we believe that the gateway, this gateway into our historic center will absolutely provide that sense of entry for our downtown. It will be large and will expand over West Concho Avenue. It also states that it should be decorative and functional lighting, should be compatible with the design, and should enhance the design and the safety of the site. With the gooseneck lighting both attached to the sign and to the pillars, this will provide light both to the street, the sign, and the adjacent sidewalk. City staff, we are recommending approval for DD 2019, subject to 2 conditions: that the light or the colors, dimensions, and materials shall be consistent with the renderings approved by this commission. Any minor deviations may be approved by the planning director, and they shall obtain any required permits from the Permits and Inspections Division. Any questions?
James, I believe you're muted, sir.
James, you're muted.
There we go.
Well, I may have missed it on the one. What's the height of the proposed elevation? In other words, the trucks be able to enter through there and stuff like that. I'm sure that's possible.
Yeah, I think we had discussed this with the fire department, and their minimum was 13 feet, but I believe the archway will be over, I believe it was 16. I know Dale Velasquez is on as well as his contractor, I believe, so they may be able to give you an exact dimension.
Yeah, it's 16. It's going to be 16 feet. Yeah, actually, when we spoke to Lance Overstreet in the engineering department, he said the minimum was going to have to be 16 feet. So that's how we based it on.
I was coming back in town late yesterday afternoon. I noticed one of the overpasses I had 16.3, and since we had some of those wind turbines going up, they're going to have them down. So that's just a question popped in my mind.
Yeah, it shouldn't obstruct any normal. Now, if there's an oversized load, there might be some kind of crazy something, but normal fire apparatus, normal trucks, normal all that should be able to easily go under this archway.
Are there any further questions for city staff? And is there anybody that's wanting to put in public comment at this time?
Am I public comment?
Yes, sir. You're welcome to speak.
Okay. So a couple of things. First off, we have a memorandum. I don't know if this was brought up. Can you hear me?
You need to read your name into the record, please.
Oh yeah, my name is Del Velasquez. I'm the executive director for Downtown San Angelo. And so a couple of things that just wanted to make sure everybody understood that once this is constructed, we have a memorandum of understanding with the city of San Angelo, and this property will then become part of the city of San Angelo property. So we're donating, in essence, the gateway. Well, I think that was the biggest thing that I wanted to say. Oh, we're putting up, which wasn't discussed here, but we're going to be putting up some historic lamps that will start at the corner of Cohenheim all the way up to the gateway. And those fixtures that you'll see on the gateway will match the fixtures that are going to be developed for the street lamps that are going to be put in both on the north and south side of Concho.
Great.
I apologize if this was mentioned, but will there be any landscaping around the base of each side?
Well, not really landscaping per se. The side over next to West Texas Fire, which is the north side, that's all concrete.
Okay.
So it's just a sidewalk. And on the south side, it is if you're familiar with Concho Street, at that intersection, there is a little cutout that separates this part where this gateway is going to be installed next to private property Concho Suites. So there's not really, I mean, it's right now it's just grass there, and it'll maintain that.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? If not, do we hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve as presented.
I second.
Who was that second? James, okay. All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries. And we will move on to RC 20-10, 23 South Post Street, a request for river corridor approval of construction of a new single-family home located at 23 South Post Street. We'll turn that over to city staff.
Thank you, sir. Shelley Pascal, City Planner. This is a request for construction of a new single-family home located at 23 South Post Street. The current zoning is RS1. It is located within the Fort Concho East neighborhood and also District 3, Harry Thomas. This is a photograph of the subject property. The proposed construction of this new single-family home, the walls will be stucco and be painted a gray color. It is a single-story home. It has 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. It's approximately 1,785 square feet. The trim for the windows and the doors will be a flat white, and they are proposing to put a dark gray metal roof on this home. I did show the location. This plat kind of shows the location of where they're proposing to put the home. And part of the process of construction of this new home, they will have to go through a replatting process. Here's a couple examples of the color, the gray color. And this top photo here is just more of, you can see where the off-white will back against the gray. The River Corridor Master Development Plan states that the primary entrance should be facing the street and should be visible from the street. They are proposing to face this primary entrance of this new home towards the street. And also, there should be a sense of open space that should be preserved in the front, rear, and side yards. And this subject property is a very large lot. And even with the new home, it will still provide a large area for open space. City staff, we are recommending approval for RC 2010, subject to 3 conditions of approval. The color, dimensions, and materials of the proposed construction shall be consistent with what was approved by this commission. Any minor deviations may be approved by the planning director. The applicant shall require or obtain any required permits. And the roofing material shall not be reflective or shiny in color. Is there any questions?
Were there photos of the surrounding area to this property?
There is not. There's one home kind of in the corner. This area has not received a lot of love over the last several years. There is single-family residential homes located near this property, and they're older homes.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have questions for staff? And is there anyone from the public wanting to comment?
The applicants are available, so if y'all have questions, and then if y'all would like to speak or let the board know anything, please unmute yourself and you can speak at this time.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, we have a motion.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, great. So that one passes. The next thing, moving on, would be a division report. And I believe there is a Chadburn Street Downtown Streetscape Project Design update.
Yes, sir. So we have an update. I know we have, looks like Lance, maybe Mitchell, they're on from engineering, and then we have Russell Pale here as the consultant. They were going to update y'all on kind of some recent stuff with the Chadburn Street project. I believe this is phase B, but I will let them kind of take it over from this point. I can see Russell now. So Russell, if you would like to take it at this point.
All right, good morning, everybody. Can y'all hear me okay?
It's kind of quiet. If there's any way to speak up or turn the volume up, it would be great.
Just pick up the volume, huh? Is that better?
A little bit, yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can share my screen. But yes, this is regarding Chadburn Phase B. But let me try and share my screen real quick. Okay. Are y'all able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see it now.
Okay, is that coming through okay? All right, so, all right, like I said, I'm Russell Pale and I'm with Centurion Planning and Design. I'll be presenting the Chadburn Streetscape Project Phase B today. The main thing is we're going to be going over today is just that, we're about 60% complete with Chadburn Phase B. We'll be going over the project schedule. It's kind of the things that I want to show you today are what, the different elements of the project and what those are going to look like. The streets, the intersections, sidewalks, rest areas, and the plantings and things like that we're going to be installing as part of this project. But before I get too much further, like I said, this is Chadburn Phase B for the downtown area. The Chadburn is going to be broken up into 3 phases, Phase A, B, and C. Phase A is from the river to Beauregard, and that portion of the project is currently, we put it out for bid. We've received a contract or a contractor on that, and we're working with them to finalize the contract, and that'll be starting sometime after the first of the year. As well, our Phase B is going from Beauregard to Loop 306, and Phase C will be from south of the river to Washington. And currently, we're only working on phases A and B as far as construction and design goes. Early on in the project, and I don't know if y'all remember, but I did present this to y'all for Phase A. This was kind of the design vocabulary that we started off with the project and kind of gave us a basis of design. Are you able to see my mouse? We looked at some gateways, but I'm kind of glad that y'all got to see the gateway that Dell is working on. We're going to actually be changing our design to more reflect the gateway like he has, but the gateways won't be constructed until Phase C. As well as, the lighting. We did coordinate with Dell on the lighting, and I'll get into that more here in a second. But, we went into things like, stamped concrete. I'm sorry, is somebody asking me a question? Anyway. This is just kind of a concept view of the project. It gives us, just gives you kind of a sense of what downtown will look like after this project is completed. This viewpoint is actually looking for, standing at Beauregard, looking south. You have Fuentes here, or Fuentes on the side here. I think the man store was there, and the old, or I guess West Texas Pacifico is over here, and Trimble Batcher's down here to the south. Some of the things that will be changing that are different from this is that, this is black. Typically black is asphalt. We'll actually be having concrete, and the brick here will be a stamped concrete, a colored concrete. But we will be looking at adding, landscaping, some benches here, you know, a curb line here to help facilitate traffic and to give, you know, a better sense of parking along Chadbourne. Anyway, I don't know how clear this is, but this is the lighting element that'll be on the project. And like I said, we did coordinate this with Dell and the downtown San Angelo with the design as far as these mast arms and the decorative, you know, arm here with as well as the lighting structure. But you know, the main emphasis is to give you know, continuity through downtown, and that was part of our scope with the city to establish that continuity with downtown San Angelo. This is just a clip from the plan set, and what I'm pointing out here is just emphasizing what the pavement is going to look like. You know, just a concrete pavement with standard striping, but again, you know, it'll just look more like that schematic image that I provided earlier. Again, you know, just kind of the next slide, what I'm going to focus on here is the stamped concrete and what that's going to look like. You know, we just want to have some contrast between the concrete pavement and the walkways and the medians, and just to give it that kind of that downtown feel that San Angelo had in the past with the concrete paver or the brick pavers, but you know, we're giving a more durable surface with concrete, and but still trying to keep the same aesthetics. The intersections, about every other intersection, we're going to have a star etched into the concrete, very similar to this. And there again, too, we want it to look like it's going to have be constructed out of brick, excuse me, but it'll be with the stamped concrete, and that stamped concrete is going to look, you know, something like this, just kind of a red brick, and contrast to that, you know, just the broom concrete finish. This next slide here is to emphasize the bulb outs at the intersections, and what those will look like. This first arrow here is pointing to a column that'll be, you know, a decorative column that'll there again to be placed at these about every other intersection where these stars will be located, just to kind of give a feel that you're in downtown. This next arrow here is pointing to the stamped concrete pavement that we'll have at those bulb outs, which will look like a wood to kind of give the you know, that boardwalk feel, kind of the historic feel from downtown. I think in some areas down on Concho, there still are some wooden sidewalks, but this will be just a concrete that'll be a smooth transition from, instead of you know, boards that have a tendency to warp and splinter. You know, this will be constructed of concrete and be very durable, and it'll actually have that stained color too to look like wood. This image here is that post that I was speaking of before, and kind of in the middle here, we're leaving a space out here to where mosaic tiles can be inserted later, and have some public art features in there. You know, we've been working with Art in Uncommon Places on some potential art locations, and this was one of those, as well as, you know, a light fixture up on the top of the bollard that'll resemble or be closely designed to the lighting fixtures along Chadbourne. This next slide here, we're looking at just you know, emphasizing the texture and the pattern of the sidewalks. We're going to go with a light sandblasted concrete just to give it a little bit of a textured feel, you know, softer feel than just hard concrete like the street will be constructed of. As well, it'll have this pattern here, but in a diamond style pattern and in some areas, and then just a standard grid pattern in other areas. As well, we do want to have some landscaping along Chadburn that we're going to add. Some of the landscaping will include trees and, trees with some, some landscaping underneath the tree, or just plain landscaping. We did, in an effort to reduce maintenance, we have scaled back on the amount of landscaping on the project. We did want to be maintenance cautious. Ultimately the city is going to have to maintain these trees and different grasses and things like that. So, in working with them, we found that, the more native materials that we can use, or the native plants that we can use, the better, and the less water that they'll need to be able to sustain growth. But this is just some pictures here of what that would look like. We'd be putting these planters or these planter grates, brick pavers around there to keep vegetation from growing up underneath there, just to minimize that. And then too, as the tree grows, this base, the base here around the tree can actually be pulled out and made bigger fairly easily, so that way the tree can grow and provides shade as it grows. Here are some of the trees that we're going to be looking at. The Chinese pistachio is one tree that provides some color in the fall and provides ample shade in the summertime, as well as lacy oaks. Those were, native to the area and easier to maintain, as well as this elm tree. These were just some of the trees that the city staff, and as well as the other elements of the design group that we got input on. This image here is of some of the rest stops, or at least, kind of a rest area where we'll have park benches on either side, as well as a bicycle rack, and just putting, some big trees on either side to provide shade for that. On the other side of the street, we have, there's a parking lot down here. There's some parking lots along Chadburn Street that we wanted to try and screen and, keep those, or not keep those as visible from the roadway. And we're doing that by screening it with some, some junipers and some yopons, as well as some fencing that will help provide screening. This image here is more of the fencing that we'll be providing, and not necessarily the vegetation, but this was the only good picture that I could find that mimics the fencing that we would be using. Here's some of the grasses that we're looking at, some blue grama, as well as some autumn sage, some mully, different versions of mully that we would be using within those planter beds. Purple heart was also requested, as well as bird of paradise, and this is a red bird of paradise, and autumn sage. Just all native plants to the area that typically do not require very much watering. As well in those rest areas, just to give you an idea of the pavement that we'll be using, or the sidewalk look. There again, it's just going to be that stamped board it's going to be concrete that's going to be stamped with a board look, board finish. Here's an image of the benches that we'll be providing. I believe the actual bench that we'll be providing will have some of the longer ones will have a third arm here to prevent people from laying down on the benches. This is an image of the bicycle rack. It's supposed to more closely image like a horse, a horse where you tie your horse up to, but for our bicycles, more modern day horses. And just the image of the trash receptacles, just to kind of match that same color. The colors are still kind of to be determined, but this was just the image that I had. So the project schedule, kind of like I talked about before, phase A, we're nearing construction. And phase A is going to be from the river to Beauregard Street. Most likely that the street reconstruction will actually start after the first of the year, just to try and help alleviate the traffic impacts during the Christmas holidays. The contractor may actually get started sometime in December, or that's what we're shooting for, but constructing a large ADA ramp going from the trails down along the Concho River up to Chadburn Street, which will be out of the way off street, but just still getting the project underway. Phase B, we're 60% complete with the drawings and the design of that. It's going to look a lot like phase A, just more of it. But right now, we are still, or we're anticipating to be completed with phase B sometime in March of next year. But the funding for phase B is still to be determined. And, if we do, part of phase A is funding is from a grant. We're going to be applying for a similar grant with the city for phase B. And then, should everything come together, construction could start as soon as November of next year, if everything goes smoothly. But there again, funding is always the route there. Anyway, that concludes my presentation. You guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I think it looks so good. I would not skimp on trees. I think that's going to be the best feature of all of it. A little more greenery downtown.
More greenery, more shade.
When you go to see other downtowns, I think the trees really make the difference when you see them on each side of the streets.
Right.
Russell, can you stop sharing your screen so we can see everybody?
Yeah, and two, the whole idea with this project, I failed to mention, was that it's, to make the downtown area more pedestrian friendly, for people to be walking through there, just to make the sidewalks a little bit wider, a little bit more friendly at the intersections. Those bulb outs help narrow the amount of street that someone has to cross, as well as, when you have cars parked, it's hard to see around those cars, if especially if you're trying to cross the street. Those bulb outs just get the pedestrian out there a little bit further. As well, we'll be replacing all the traffic signals along Chadburn in phase A as well as phase B. There'll be new traffic signals that have mast arms over the street. They'll have pedestrian elements so that if somebody wants to cross the street, they can push the button and it'll trigger that. As well as, just the bicycles, the bicycle racks that I showed you, and just making people aware of bicycles in the area.
Great update.
Commissioner Mazur, I think you were trying to speak earlier and we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I think my mute was off. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Russell, I've got a question. When y'all do the streets, are they going to tear the streets up? Are they going to do an overlay on those, or how extensive is that going to be?
Yeah, so this is going to be a very extensive project. So we're going to be ripping out the existing streets from building, we're going to be going from building face to building face, putting in new sidewalks, new streets.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be reconstructing the base material under the streets and putting in concrete streets instead of asphalt, so that
A lot of those streets on Chadburn are brick. They have brick underneath them.
Right. Yeah, there's a layer of asphalt, brick.
And those little stone, those little wood blocks. They had, some of them had those blocks on it.
Right.
So.
So before we did any of the street construction, we worked with the city on a utility, rehabbing the utilities there, and that's nearing completion now as well.
Yeah.
And part of that, they had to dig up the street, and we got to go see some of the different layers of pavement underneath there.
Yeah, I saw a lot of it. I figured it's going to be pretty extensive then. It's
Yes.
going to be an exciting project.
Yes,
We're looking forward to it.
it's really going to change the face of downtown. And we hope that it's going to extend into the, the side streets and all the other streets and throughout downtown.
Mhm.
I think it would look really great.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that report. I'm going to move on now to announcements. The next regular meeting of the DHRC is scheduled to begin on Thursday, November 19th, 2020 at 10 a.m. in the East Reception Room of City Hall, 72 West College Avenue, or via Zoom, depending on what's going on at that point.
And if you'll allow me 1 minute, we may be looking at going back to in-person meetings. I know City Council had their first in-person meeting this week. So we will keep you up to date. I don't know if the governor is going to keep extending it, but we do have precautions we're going to have to move. If we go back in person, we'll have to move to the convention center. They do have precautionary items there. Each individual on the dais will be separated by plexiglass. They're requiring masks and social distancing. So Shelley will be in contact with you if and when we make a final decision on that. We just want to give you guys enough time. If you feel comfortable to come to that, we want to make sure that we have all the precautions taken care of. So this may be our last digital meeting, but we will let you know for sure in the coming weeks.
Okay. If there's not anything else, I guess if someone wants to make a motion to adjourn, please. I will. I move to adjourn. Do I have a second? Or do we not need to do that?
You can go ahead. It's fine.
Go ahead and take a motion or not?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, we do with our other boards. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second for adjournment? Great. All right. All in favor, say aye and goodbye. Aye.
Aye, goodbye.
See you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.